Greetings duelists and welcome to another video. So on yesterday's video we talked about a bunch of new White Forest and Azamina cards that got revealed in Supreme Darkness. It seems like Supreme Darkness is pretty much going to be like the epilogue of what is to be in the White Forest team, very similar to how Cyberstorm Access was pretty much the epilogue behind Dogmatica and / Fallen of Albas. Before I get to talk about the new cards, this being one of them, I will put this face down in a spell trap zone. I kind of want to talk about a few things that I've noticed when it came to the new cards. The first thing I noticed is White Forest now has a one card combo, as opposed to in the past when they had like multiple card combos, or they relied on multiple cards. Like, let's say for example, let's use this Sylvie in our hand as like the best example. We can normal summon the Sylvie. Sylvie is going to add us the new Azamina monster. Well, one of the two new Azamina monsters in this case, because we did get another one. Here it is, Azamina Elset. Now you can use Azamina Elset and special summon herself, because you can special summon any White Forest or Azamina monster by revealing her in your hand. You have two options here: either A, you fuse with Elset, or B, you grab these two and you're just going to synchro summon. And upon doing that, the Elset triggers and she grabs any Sinful Spoils card. And this is a really cool way to get your combo started, because this does get you to your Azamina engine. So like for example, you can use Deception send Arciela, and you add the Sacred Azamina, or the Hollow Azamina as it's called now in the TCG. You can Hollow the Azamina, send Deception. You can summon Arcielago. We have another new Azamina that just got revealed. We will show you that in a moment. But we can use Arcielago effect. Arcielago will grab us Wanted, and Wanted will grab us the Diabell Star. So you can just send it to the graveyard. You can special summon Diabell Star. Diabell Star sends the Arcielago. We get to set with Diabell Star. In the past, or at least currently in the present, like if we're talking like Rage of the Abyss format, you would be setting original Sinful Spoils Snake Eye, and this would tutor into your Snake Eye engine. But in this instance, we're going to do something a little bit different. The card that we're going to be setting is Sinful Spoils Awakening. Sinful Spoils Awakening is one of the new traps, and essentially this can reset itself if you control a level 5 or higher illusion, which all the Azaminas fulfill that condition. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grab the Hollow Azamina back to our hand by putting back our Arcielago. We're going to activate the Hollow Azamina. We're going to send the Awakening. You're going to summon Rhea Silvera. So now you're insulated from hand traps for your next couple plays. And now you can Sylvie by returning this to the extra deck. And then these two can bridge you into your Fiendsmith engine. And this is another thing that I noticed. I noticed that the Fiendsmith engine is probably going to be like the best way to utilize the Azamina / White Forest cards for a plethora of reasons. Reason number one, you can equip some of these monsters, which just serve as fodder for your white forest effects, which is a really big deal. The other thing is, if you see half of the Azamina monsters, some of them require fiend type monsters, and there are no fiend type monsters in the white forest archetype or Azamina archetype, at least at the time of this recording. Most of them are just illusions, and the white forest monsters are mostly spellcasters. And so that's where the Fiendsmith engine comes in. The Fiendsmith engine just helps fill that gap of needing those fiend monsters. It also has incredible synergy due to the fact that you can just make sequence, and sequence is really good in this case because sequence can make any fiend monster, and we do have a fiend monster that just synergizes well with illusion monsters, and that is Baphomet, the king of the flying mythical beast, or the king of the mythical beasts. So basically you can just send this back to the epilogue, you can send the Azamina L set back to the bottom of the deck, or back to the deck in general, and then you can use this effect and just send any illusion. You can send the Diabells. If you already have Diabells in graveyard, you can send Master Tau, and Master Tau can reborn the Diabells. You can send the Nightmare Apprentice, and Nightmare Apprentice can just tutor you out into like a bunch of them. So there are a couple of options. Another thing that I learned is that both the Diabell spell and traps are a little bit better than I gave them credit for. These cards trigger when a card is sent by a card effect and not for a card effect, which means as opposed to the Whitewood cards, these cards trigger whenever cards were sent, would be sent for the effect of another card. So like for example, the Hallowed Azaminas sending the Deception triggers these cards, and Play of the Diabell is the better one, because with Play of the Diabell you can send from your main deck or extra deck, and we do have a plethora of options. In the main deck we have really cool options that you can send. For example, you can send Trick Clown as an extender. You can send Blazing Cartesia that can just recuperate herself in the end phase, because we did send a fusion monster during the turn, which would be the Azamina monster. You can send stuff like Guiding Quem, for example, that just reborn her another way. You can send Shadow monsters if you wish to go that route, and Shadows are a fusion centric strategy. So it just makes a natural amount of sense in that regard. So these Diabell cards are a little bit better than I get them credit for. Also, the second, you can do both effects in the same turn, meaning that you can just banish, you can just banish this card and banish a bunch of other Sinful Spoils cards, or spell trap cards in general, and just like reuse them that way. But yeah, you can now do Sinful Spoils Awakening, and since you control a level 6 or higher illusion monster, being the Rhea Silvera, you can reset this card. And sometimes you'll have an end board just like this one, and this doesn't look like a scary end board, but you need to consider the fact that you only used one monster for that, being the White Forest Sylvie, and there were other plethora of options. Let's talk about some of the new cards. So one card that we got that is very convenient to be summoned in this deck, although you're probably not gonna be playing it in this archetype, is Kick-Ass Goblin Bikers. This will probably get a TCG name change most likely, but Kick-Ass Goblin Bikers basically reads You can target face a monster your opponent controls up to a number of goblin monsters you control. Detach one SOC material from this monster, and if you do, attach those targets to this card as material. So, as opposed to the Crazy Beast, instead of this attaching spell and traps, this attaches monsters. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can target cards your opponent controls up to a number of goblin XYZ monsters you control. Detach 3 XYZ materials from these monsters, and if you do, send those targets to a graveyard. You can only use each effect of kick-ass goblin breakers once per turn. Generically, this card is fine. You only will be able to target one monster. At least for both effects. If you don't play them in a dedicated goblin deck. In a dedicated goblin deck, this card would be way more usable because it does target more cards, and you do have cards that just work really well with this card. I'm always a fan of generic monsters that just have extra utility when they function for their own archetypes. Like, I think the last monster we got that was very similar to that was number 90, the Photon Lord. So, yeah, really cool card. I don't think you would play it on a Wise Force team. Maybe any rank 6 deck could make use of this card because this card is really good going second. But it's also really good interruption if you want to if you wish to summon it going first. It is a fiend type monster, so you don't have to worry about being locked into cards like, for example, the Unchained monsters. So that's really good news there. Let's talk about more of the AZAMINAS. So we got Apparition of the AZAMINA. The first line of text is, this card is always treated as a Sinful Spoils card. If this card is sent to a graveyard or banished from your hand or field by an activated card or effect, you can special summon this card. When your AZAMINA or White Forest monster destroys a monster by battle, you can target one Sinful Spoils spell trap from your graveyard and add it to your hand. This card is really cool. This card has a lot of utility. The first thing I've noticed when it came to this card is that this card has dual purpose, because either being sent to graveyard or being banished means that, for example, Allure of Darkness is really good with this card. So if you decide to play something like Allure of Darkness in a deck like this one, this is a really good card that you can banish, because this can just summon itself back for free. Being treated as a Sinful Spoils card means you can return it with Wanted, you can add it with the Archetypes, you can send it to the graveyard for Hollowed AZAMINA, you can I'm not sure about this ruling because it is treated as a Sinful Spoils card, but never mind. Diabell Black Witch says spell trap specifically. I was wondering if there was any way that Diabell Witch can set the Apparition, but it cannot. So don't get cheated. Don't get cheated by that. As far as utility goes, whether it be fusion fodder or banishment fodder, you can banish this card for Bestials, and it does trigger her effect to special summon as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Very similar to the Malice monsters. So any dedicated strategy that can use this card as fodder, you can just use it and just resummon this card. It is a level 8 dark monster, so let's say, for example, you decide to play like a deck, a Bestial Thunder Dragon control deck or something like that, and you just like discard this card for trading and then banish it for a Bestial, or just banish it with Allure of Darkness. you have really good utility for that. But let's go back to the main topic at hand. This is an Azamina monster, and this is a way simple spoils card. So right off the bat, this card does work with Azamina Elset. So now Azamina Elset has another target for her special summon effect, that being the apparition. Another really cool thing is this being level 8 dark, this being level 2 light, means you can make Chaos Angel with these two cards despite none of them being tuners, and that will trigger Azamina Elset's effect. So that's a really cool trick to keep in mind. Using Elset's effect to fusion summon will just trigger the apparition of Azamina to resummon herself as well. So that's another really important detail. Also, her other effect, when your Azamina or White Forest monster destroys a monster by battle, it doesn't have to be her, it could be any of them. You can target a simple spell trap in your graveyard, add it to your hand. This effect won't come up. I don't think this effect will come up at all. Like, it's not really the greatest effect. Like, it is really good for like the grind game, for like the mid to late game. This effect is kind of practical, but realistically, you won't be using this effect as often. So that's something to keep in mind. But it is great that we just have another Azamina monster that can just summon themselves. And speaking of Azamina monsters, we do have another one, and that is the Saint Azamina. So the materials for Saint Azamina is 1 level 6 or higher fusion monster and 1 level 6 or higher synchro monster. The conditions for this card are not hard at all. Like, if we start with the Sylvie combo, the combo we showcased earlier, if you can just send anything that's not like the White Forest Synchro as a material to just start your Azamina engine, the Archetypes plus the Sylvie are 2 materials for this card. And the RCL can grab you a White Forest card like upon her summon, and most likely the White Forest card that you would be adding for this instant would be like the Sinful Spoils of the White Forest. So now this card does have another target for it. Once you kickstart both your White Forest and your Azamina engine, which is not something very hard to do. It has 4000 defense. The first effect is your opponent cannot target this card, cards they control, and cards in the graveyard and their banishment with card effects. Also, they take any battle damage you would have taken involving this card. If this card was fusion summoned, this card, quick effect, you can special summon 1 level 9 or lower Azamina monster from your deck or extra deck. This card is fantastic. This card really pushes the Azamina theme. I think it makes this archetype a little bit more powerful. Take note, this is a level 10 monster, so if you want to summon it using the Hallowed Azamina, you will be needing 2 Sinful Spoils in order to summon this. Which is convenient for this card to be a Sinful Spoils card, because this would trigger this effect. Same way this would be able to summon her from the deck, or summon Elset from the deck. Another really cool thing about this card is that it does facilitate the summon of More Regina, which otherwise was another really hard card to summon. Your opponent not being able to target their own cards is really huge. It means that a lot of cards that just help combo extend from their side of the field just won't work anymore. Let's say, for example, you're facing against like Diabell, and let's say they're trying to do like their typical combo, the Fiendsmith engine is turned off because they can't target their own cards. Like for example, you cannot do Requiem to equip to Engraver. Just to give you an example, you cannot like target the Reborn. Unchained Soul or Charvara won't be able, cannot function as well. Like Unchained Soul or Rage cannot pick up back from the graveyard. So yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of like awkward scenarios for your opponent if they cannot target their own cards. Also, not being able to target this card is also a really big deal because it's 4,000 defense, so it's really hard to just get rid of this monster. Sadly, this special summon effect is only when if it was fusion summoned during the turn, so you won't be able to just use this every turn, which I think is just like power proofing, like future proofing the card to make sure it's not like very ridiculous or out of control. But yeah, Saint Azamina can just summon the Rhea, the Elia Sylvia, for example. So if you can make this card before any under Azamina monster with Hello Azamina, this probably would be the card you would summon. Really good card. So let's go with another one. This is Snake Eyes Damned Dragon. So while I was looking at the Azamina lore, I was wondering what the hell was that dragon behind the L-set. Like, we've seen this card in a bunch of art. Like, for example, we've seen that card in the I don't think we see it right here, but we do see it in the artwork of Play of the Diabell as well, and we see it in a few other places. And I was wondering where the hell did that dragon came from, what role did it play in the lore, and it is a Snake Eye monster. So the fusion materials are one Snake Eye monster plus one Illusion monster. So right off the bat, if you're playing the Azamina engine alongside Snake Eyes, this card would be possible to summon. Must be either fusion summoned or special summoned by sending two face-up monster cards from your opponent's card zone to the graveyard. This is also very easy to do, especially if you're playing Snake Eyes. If this card is special summoned, you can target one face-up monster on the field, place it face-up in its owner's spell and trap zone as a continuous spell. You can only use this effect of Damn Dragon once per turn. So this card is not very amazing. This is basically Flamberge Dragon's first effect, tied into a fusion monster. However, the biggest value behind this card is how easy it is to summon it. Like sending two monster cards from your spell and trap zone is not really that hard at all. You can do this with Centurion, you can do this with the Fiendsmith engine, you can do this you can do this with spell and traps that are treated as monsters. There are enough ways to summon this card. Practically, either A, you play this in a dedicated Snake Eye deck, updated with the Azamina cards, or you will summon this in most likely a Fiendsmith variant or White Forest. The effect is really not that great. It's not something to stop, it's not something to write home about. However, just because of how easy it is to summon this card, is something to just respect when it comes to this card. So the last card to talk about is Azamina Unleashing. This is like the second Azamina trap, if I'm not mistaken. We do have another one that came out in Ritual of the Abyss. So this card is always treated as a white forest card. Target cards on the field up to a number of fusion and synchro monsters, specifically Fiend, Illusion, and Spellcaster, you control and in your graveyard. Return them to the hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a monster effect, you can set this card. I really like this card. I really would have wished we had Sinful Spoil traps that was as good as this card. Right off the bat, this card just becomes like immediate interruption in the white forest deck. Like, it's super easy to just load up with different synchros. So this card alone can like be a disruption for multiple cards. Also, it counts for fusion and it counts specifically for those three types. So if you go to your typical Azamina white forest combo, at least the one that with Sylvie that we showed earlier, you will have at least 2 cards to target with this card, maybe even more if you go through the Fiendsmith line and decide to do other things that way. Take note, it just says Fiend, Illusion, and Spellcaster. It does not specific. It doesn't have to be specifically Azaminas. It doesn't have to be specifically White Forest. So, like, Dogmatica variants can play this card. Shadow variants can play this card. Like, other cards that just work upon like all those combination of monsters. This being an Azamina trap means it's easily searchable, like with at least with Archetypes, for example. Is searchable like with the Deception spell. So yeah, this is a really good card. It's very soon to tell whether or not you would play this. At least if you're playing an Azamina variant. If you're playing a White Forest variant, I think you would definitely play this card. Just it being searchable after White Forest effects, like just adding it off Sylvie, just makes it viable. One thing to note, when I did the combo with Sylvie, Tales of the White Forest was involved. I kind of forgot. Just keep in mind, Sylvie does need to add a spell trap. So whoever comments in this video saying that you need a spell trap to do this combo probably did not see the entire video, because I am correcting myself in this. I think White Forest has a very promising future. I think these cards are going to give the deck a lot of flexibility. I don't think it's something like ultimately high tier, like beyond the level of like what is currently topping in the OCG, like for example Raziel and Malice. But I think these cards are very, very promising. I think these cards are very, very strong. I don't think it's Snake Eye level strong, at least pre-hit Snake Eye level at least. But I think a lot of people will be experimenting with these cards to the point where White Forest might just jump into the format. But yeah. That has been it from me. I hope you found this informative to your liking and understanding. More videos coming soon. I think we're close to all the reveals of Supreme Darkness, and once the set is fully revealed, I will make another video like talking about that set in general, because I do have a very interesting take when it comes to Supreme Darkness that probably is not in a lot of people's minds at the moment. But until then, keep practicing and keep dueling.